Long before the rise of kingdoms and the march of warriors, the world knew only chaos. Yet from that chaos emerged a force unlike any other, a god not born of the skies, but forged in the roar of fire and the pounding of iron. His name was Ogun, the god of war and iron. Feared by many, revered by all, his presence was essential, for without him civilization could never have taken shape. But how did Ogun ascend to such power, and why does his legend still thunder through time? To answer this, we journey back to the dawn of African myth. In the beginning, before humankind had mastered metal, before swords tore through enemies and tools raised empires, the Orishas, divine spirits of the Yoruba, molded the earth. Among them was one unlike the others. Ogun was not like his celestial kin who commanded winds, light, or magic. He was a god of unyielding strength, a being who drew his might from the deepest veins of the earth itself, iron. Legends recount that Ogun was born not in realms of light and calm, but in the fiery core of molten stone. He was the child of Obatala, the Sky Father who shaped humans from clay, and Odua, the Earth Mother who gave them breath. Yet Ogun saw their creation as frail and vulnerable, lacking the power to endure. So from the womb of the earth he pulled forth iron, learning to bend it, wield it, and shape it into strength. Ogun molded iron into tools and weapons, but the other Orishas regarded him with wary eyes. While their hands were soft and their robes draped in silks and gold, his hands were hardened by labor, his face etched with soot, and his body bore the scars of endless toil. Unlike them, he wore no ornaments, only the proof of his work, the sweat and the fire of creation. Ogun was more than a god of battle. He was both a builder and a destroyer. Then came a time when a great dispute arose among the Orishas. They sought to raise the very first city, Ilife, but no road existed to reach the place. A dense, untamed forest blocked their dream. One by one, they tried to clear a path. Oya, goddess of storms, summoned howling winds, but the trees did not yield. Sango, the god of thunder and lightning, hurled bolts of fire, yet the forest stood strong. Even Orunmila, the wisest among them, found no answer. At last they turned to Ogun. With no words, only a nod, he drew his mighty iron blade. There was no magic, no trickery, only the raw, unrelenting strength of steel biting into wood. With every swing, trees that once seemed indestructible fell at his feet. His sweat rained down like a storm. His breath came heavy as thunder, yet he pressed on. For 7 days and 7 nights, Ogun carved through the wilderness until finally, a road to Ile-Ife was born. The Orishas rejoiced, praising him, but within Ogun, something had changed forever. Ogun had tasted the raw force of iron and felt the fire of creation surge through him, and deep inside he knew his journey had only just begun. As the city of the gods rose from the earth, so too did Ogun's legend spread across realms. Yet with great strength came a shadow of danger, for the very gods who once praised him began to tremble at his name. They hailed him as a savior, the warrior who carved a road where none existed. But whispers soon shifted into fear, for a god who controls iron also controls war, and a warrior with no battle to fight might turn his weapon upon his kin. When the road to Ile-Ife was cleared, the Orishas built their majestic city, a shining realm of order and might. Golden temples reached skyward, rivers glistened with divine blessings, and towering walls promised eternal protection. In this glory, Ogun was honored with feasts and gifts, hailed as the one who made it all possible. But within him burned unease. As the Orishas rejoiced, they grew indulgent, no longer tilling soil nor shaping the world with effort. They grew soft, content in luxury, treating mortals as servants beneath their divine feet. Ogun, forged by sweat and discipline, despised this. One day he stood before the council of gods, and his voice thundered like a storm, shaking the very pillars of their golden hall. In the council of Ile-Ife, Ogun's voice roared, "We are not meant to sit upon thrones while mortals toil below. If we are to remain worthy of their faith, we must labor as they do." But the Orishas mocked him. "Ogun," scoffed Orunmila, god of wisdom, "you are strength and steel, not a voice of counsel. Let mortals work, for we are above such burdens." Rage swelled within Ogun's chest. He had carved their path, bled for their city, yet they belittled him as nothing more than a brute. The fire in his heart grew fierce and his contempt sharpened with each passing day. While the gods sank deeper into luxury, Ogun's disgust consumed him. The forge, once his sanctuary, now felt like chains around his soul. The city he built with sweat and steel became to him a monument of betrayal. At last, the storm within broke. Ogun turned his back on Ile-Ife, retreating into mountains and forests where the relentless pounding of his hammer filled the skies once more. But this time, he did not forge plows and pillars, he forged weapons of wrath. Soon the Orishas realized the weight of their arrogance. Without Ogun, the flow of iron vanished and their warriors faltered with fragile bronze. Their walls weakened, rebellion stirred among mortals and war ignited. The once glorious city of Ile-Ife now trembled on the edge of ruin. And in desperation, the Orishas were forced to call for the god they had spurned. The Orishas cried out for Ogun, "Return to us. Ogun, we finally see your strength is what sustains us." But silence answered them. Only the ringing echo of hammer-striking metal rolled through the wilderness, where the master of iron prepared for something far greater than they dared imagine. The gates of Ile still rose proudly, yet inside the walls the city crumbled. Without Ogun's steel, warriors faltered with brittle bronze and builders stood powerless without his tools. What was once the radiant heart of the gods now teetered on ruin. Then across the horizon he came. His frame bore scars of countless battles, his skin blackened by soot and flame, and in his grip, an iron blade that shimmered like fire under the sun. His eyes burned with a fury that unsettled even the divine, and he was not alone. Behind him marched a legion of men hardened in exile who had mastered iron under his hand. Ogun had not wasted his years apart, he had forged an army. At the gates the Orishas gathered. Obatala, his father, stepped forward. "My son, you return at last. Let us bury our quarrel, Ile needs you." A long silence followed. The wind carried the sharp scent of metal and sweat. Ogun's grip tightened on his sword. "Now you need me?" he said coldly. The gods shifted uneasily. Even Sango, the great lord of thunder, felt the weight of Ogun's voice. Ogun stepped forward, and the ground beneath him felt frail. This was no longer the city he had forged with his own hands, but a hollow shadow of its glory, ruled by gods lost in indulgence. "I do not return as a servant," he declared. "If Ile cannot stand without me, then I alone shall decide how it stands." The Orishas froze. Was this a warning or a declaration of war? Before the silence cracked into battle, Osun, the river goddess of wisdom and flow, approached. "Ogun, your rage is rightful, but ruin cannot restore what has been broken. If you seek order, do not carve it with blood, forge it with leadership." Her words struck him like hammer upon iron. Power he understood well, yet he now saw power without direction was only chaos. Slowly his sword lowered. "Then I will rule," he said at last, his voice ringing like steel. "Not as a despot, but as the master of war and iron. If Ile is to survive, it must be rebuilt on strength, not frailty." And so Ogun rose beyond warriorhood, crowned as a king among gods. Under his rule, Ile thrived once more. Mortals learned the sacred craft of the forge, shaping their own tools and weapons. Never again would they remain helpless nor depend on gods drowned in idleness. And when Ogun departed once more into the wilderness, the echo of hammers carried his eternal legacy. Iron became the very lifeblood of human progress. Each sword, each plow, each hammer carried his essence. Even now, Ogun endures as the timeless god of iron, of war, and of toil. His name is whispered by soldiers before they march and honored by blacksmiths as sparks leap from their anvils. For within every ember his fire still lives. Ogun's saga is not only of battle, but of invention, endurance, and renewal. He embodies the strength of labor, the discipline of resilience, and the fragile balance between ruin and civilization. Among the Yoruba and throughout West Africa, he remains revered as guardian of warriors, smiths, and all who wield iron. His legend reminds us that true might is not in raw power alone, but in the purpose it serves. If Ogun's tale has stirred you, share your thoughts below. Which African myth should be told next? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more powerful legends from the heart of Africa.